Welcome to my talk about new in 2.3, the improved user experience. And as you all know, it is already the 10th Checkmk conference. Wow, this makes you a little bit nostalgic, right? So before we take a look into what's new in 2.3, let's take a quick look back. I already talked to a lot of you, and one thing that we were talking about was, oh yeah, I used Checkmk for a long time. So I want to know from you, what's actually the oldest major version of Checkmk you have ever used? So please take out your phones and answer Slido, and maybe in the meantime, I'll get my speaker notes. That would be great. Okay, and the first results are already coming in. That's really great. Always fun to see how old, what's the oldest version you have ever used. A lot of people using the 1.2. Maybe I really get my speaker notes now. That would be great. And we're already 25%. Okay. We'll give you like half of a minute just to make sure. And well, all of you who have used the 1.5 or any older version, you probably remember this one. Yeah? Who does remember this one? Maybe a little hard? Yes? Great. Amazing. So it was very blue, this one, right? Well, we have certainly come a very long way since then. A major milestone was, of course, in this journey, the 2.0, when we redesigned the whole software, as you know. We introduced a dark mode and a complete new structure and navigation. If we now take a look at the 2.2, so the last version, at first glance, it seems like not that much has changed. But if you listened to my talk last year, you know that we did a lot of quality of life improvements. I want to just show you one of my highlights, and it was the introduction of the more powerful label filters using the and or not operators that enabled you to create more tailored views. But to be honest, my absolute favorite change was this one. You might remember it. We changed the often overlooked bacon sign agents buttons from a black color to a green color, and making it more visible and actually clickable. And yeah, you know, there's still so much to do. And to tackle that, we defined a UX strategy. We want to continuously improve and evolve the user experience of Checkmk. This strategy consists of 4 pillars. The first one, consistency. We want to make things predictable so you can navigate Checkmk effortlessly. Second, efficiency. We want to make things swift so that your tasks are a breeze. Third, error prevention and recovery. Very important. We want to make things foolproof that you can stay on track even when things go wrong. And the fourth one is accessibility. We want to make things inclusive so that every IT pro can excel. Those 4 pillars lay the foundation for our UX strategy. So much for the theory. This brings us to what's new in 2.3. And let's start with something big. At last year's conference, I announced the rework of the acknowledged problem dialog. It was triggered by this little option, the sticky option, which always raised the question, what does it actually mean? And I'm very happy to announce at this conference that we actually reworked the dialog. And first things first, the sticky option is as well as the persistent comment and the send notification options, now has a descriptive label to clearly communicate its purpose. To be honest with you, we discussed the exact wording a lot internally. Although we are now confident that this one is clear, we felt that it still leaves some room for interpretation. So we added an example below to clear up any remaining ambiguity, as this option can lead to oversight if things get worse. And this was also the reason why we decided to turn this option off on default. Well, you might now say to me, Tanya, that's all good and well, but we use this option all of the time, and now I have to click on it. That's not really an improvement, that's actually pretty terrible. And I understand that. You do have your own policies or special use cases that differ from our defaults. And I do have good news for you. We included a shortcut to the global settings where you can set the default settings of the options that you have here. The really amazing thing is that this option is no new feature that we included. It was always there. It just had a very weird name. It was named View Action Defaults, and I think no one ever found that one. So we renamed that as well, of course. For setting the expiration date of an acknowledgement, we introduced a date picker to Checkmk. Of course, you can still type in the date if you want to, but if you want to have a more visual approach, the date picker is just perfect. Correspondingly, we have also included a time picker. You may notice that this time picker uses a 12-hour period with AM/PM and not a 24-hour period. And before you all gasp, if you prefer to work with a 24-hour period, that's not a problem actually, as we are utilizing the native browser default date and time picker. So the format that it will be displayed in is based on your own browser settings. Always should be comfortable for you to work with. Sometimes the Checkmk server time is not the same as your local time. If someone forgets about that, it can lead to misunderstandings. And to prevent that, we now included a hint right after the time to let you know that this reflects the server date and time. Furthermore, we have removed the Remove Acknowledgement button from the dialog and replaced it with a Cancel button. You can now remove acknowledgements directly from the commands menu, so you don't have to open up the Acknowledge Problem dialog anymore for that. Yay! You don't have to clap, it's all right. So that's our improvements for the Acknowledge Problem dialog. And if we talk about commands, acknowledge problems, there's always one other dialog we have to talk about. It's schedule downtimes, or how I like to call it, button mania. Because in total, on default, we have 8 buttons here to confirm the dialog. Yeah, it's insane. We have this green one for starting a downtime right away for 60 minutes. Then we have 5 dark black ones that start the downtime immediately and last for different durations. That's not it, because sometimes you want to have a custom start and a custom end date. So the custom time range is the perfect button for you. It confirms the date and time you put in the input fields behind it. And last but not least, we have another dark button here, which just looks like the other buttons that created downtime, but instead, this one removes the downtimes of all the hosts or services that you have selected. Fun. 8 buttons in total. 8. That's a lot. So we also decided to rework this dialog. And to be honest, this is much better already, because we only have 2 buttons at the bottom and everything else in the dialog, and I want to just quickly walk you through what we changed. Because after the comment, you can now set a duration with those little tabs. And we know that they are a little bit ambiguous when they actually end. So if you select one of those tabs, they automatically change the end date and time, making it more transparent when the downtime will actually end. We also added a link to edit these duration presets in the already existing global settings. So you can add or remove them or rename them as much as you want to. You might have also noticed that there are two options missing that were previously there. Don't worry, they're not gone, but we rather moved them to this advanced options. This is a new concept that we introduced to distinguish between the most important options and those that are only needed in certain circumstances or require advanced knowledge. And yes, this is a first concept to replace show more. In the advanced options of the scheduled downtimes dialog, you find two options now, both off by default. The first one, only for hosts, set child host and downtime, and the second one, only start downtime if host services go down unreachable during the defined start and end time, which is the flexible option. Checking this option gives you additional settings, as you can see here. Scheduled downtimes and acknowledged problems are not the only command dialogues that we have reworked. In total, we have reworked 18 commands dialogues in the host service section, the event console, and other command dialogues and their corresponding confirmation messages. Activate changes is one of the core actions in the setup. And with Checkmk 2.3, it's even more efficient to work with. Because gone are the days when you wondered who is currently activating changes. The warning message now clearly communicates who is activating the changes and what source are they using. So the general user interface, REST API, or the CLI. But sometimes you might don't want to activate the changes, but rather revert those pending changes. And previously, when you clicked on that action, it simply discarded the pending changes without any further confirmation dialog. Which is very strange because we usually have a confirmation dialog for everything. Like for adding a comment, you have to click on a confirmation dialog, but not for reverting pending changes. And this can have some unforeseen consequences, because not all changes that you can revert did require manual activation in the first place. So for example, notification rules that are already active could have been reverted with this action, and you would never know about it until you don't get a notification. So we wanted you to be able to make an informed decision. So instead of immediately rolling back the changes, we have included a confirmation page that lists all affected pending changes, including all that don't require manual activation. They are marked with a gray info icon. And on top of that, we added 2 new permissions to regulate who can actually discard those changes. I mentioned at the beginning that we added a lot of quality of life improvements to the 2.2, and of course we also did that in the 2.3 release as well. I want to show you some of my highlights. Folders in Checkmk are generally a little bit rough around the edges. For example, the case-sensitive sorting. With the 2.3, we now have changed that to case-insensitive, so a more natural sorting. So folders are actually where you expect them to be. Yay! I was waiting for that. Finally, something to clap for. Speaking about folders, they are now also included in the filter search within the host setup. So you can find them more easily, and you can actually now more easily find the filter search because we redesigned this a little bit as well. Let's talk about icons for a little bit. Specifically about the icons for rule matching. I hope you all have good eyes, because we have here two quite similar green circles. The first one indicates that the rule matches and defines one or more parameters, while the second one also indicates that this rule matches and adds one or more parameters that is not being defined by another rule higher in the hierarchy. So this one is a little bit low in the hierarchy and adds something. Let's play a game. Take out your phones and tell me which one of those green circles was the one that indicates that the rule matches and defines one or more parameters. So it's not the lower one in the hierarchy. Which one is it? Let's see. Yeah. Oh, you're quite sure? Oh, no. Oh, not, maybe not. Give you some time. Yeah, maybe it is the same color. Who knows? I might be tricking you, just for the fun of it. So, yeah, we are around 60% for A, so you're a little bit sure, but not entirely. And yes, the 60% of you are in fact right. It is circle A that indicates that the rule matches and defines one or more parameter. So, even if you can distinguish the two green tones, it's hard to remember what they actually represent. To make this easier for you, with the 2.3, you don't have to guess that meaning anymore. We added symbols to all of those icons to make them unambiguous, descriptive, and of course, in the end, also accessible. So even if you have, yes, even if you have color blindness. In action, the rule-matching icons look like this now. The icons were also used in numerous other places, such as the activity status of users, so we changed them there as well. Let's stay in the realm of colors a little bit. This is the look of an ineffective rule. The green one. This indicates that the rule is not effective, but ineffective. And this is prone to misunderstandings. I mean, after all, green is usually associated with something positive, like a success or a match. And to make that view unambiguous, we removed the green color, and you can now actually read the text that's there. And we added that icon in front to indicate that the rule is ineffective. Each effective rule doesn't have that icon in front, so we make it easy for you to scan through the list and find the ineffective rules as fast as possible. Who of you loves hotkeys, navigating with keyboard shortcuts? No one? Okay, we take it out, Lars. We don't need it anymore. But maybe afterwards you will find hotkeys nice, because we are starting to introduce navigation with keyboard more into Checkmk. You can now hit Alt-S to open up the setup and then start right away with the search. Alt-C for customize and Alt-M for the monitor menu. So we make you more efficient when navigating through Checkmk. You know, I love running surveys. Within the last year, we ran over 15 surveys. And one of them included a question about how many hosts or services you typically display per row in views. Sounds a little bit complicated. The default of this is 3. So 3 hosts or services are next to each other. But if you look at the results of that survey, you'll see that about 73% of the respondents changed this default. So this can't be a very smart default, right? Long story short, we decided to change the default, so it's now 1 entry per row for every new installation. Yay! Oh boy, we fixed a lot of minor annoyances in Checkmk with the 2.3. For example, Checkmk is now explicitly naming regex in filters, making it more easy for you to know where you can actually use regex. All of the chevrons and arrows that indicate collapsible and expandable content now point in the same direction, actually. So if you look at the sidebar, it's now consistent instead of in just random directions. If a user doesn't have permissions to see something, They now also don't see that customize menu if it's hidden for them. We renamed built-in to built-in to be grammatically correct. And we cleaned up a lot of the customized pages, like, for example, the bookmarks list page. So just make it more consistent and easier to use. And there's so much more in the 2.3. In fact, we have included over 100 minor and major UX improvements. And yes, I counted them. I looked through all of the tickets. 100 minor and major UX improvements that make the UI more consistent, more accessible, improve error prevention and recovery, and ultimately make you more efficient. Of all of those improvements, there's one project I consider my personal favorite. So I'll take you on the journey from user idea to functional feature. And at least 128 of you know this one. It started with an idea in the ideas portal. Fake check results should create a hard state. This would allow testing notifications. A very specific idea with a clear goal in mind. Test the notifications. So how can you currently test notifications? Let's take a look together. We go to our host and service that we want to test notifications on. We open up the commands menu, we make sure show more is enabled, and we click on fake check results. This opens up the fake check result dialog, where you can now decide on the result. Let's pick just critical. After confirming the dialog, all your selected services or hosts are now critical until the next regular check interval. And in theory, this already creates a notification, because by default, one fake check is enough to trigger a hard state, which then results in a notification. And this means notification. So far, so easy. Open the dialog, select the status, confirm test notification. Perfect. Unfortunately, in order to reduce notification noise and optimize everything, the default of one check attempt to hard state is often changed. It's more likely to set it to 3 check attempts to create a hard state. So you need to fire the fake check result dialog not 1, but 2 and 3 times to create that hard state that you need and thus trigger a notification. All of that within one check interval. Otherwise, it resets and you have to start over again. To be honest, it sounds tedious just talking about it. And I can absolutely see why the fake check result dialog should create a hard state right away in order to test notifications. It would be so much easier. For me, as a designer, that's an easy task, right? I'll add a checkbox to that dialog, create hard state, and hell, I'm feeling good. I will also redesign that whole dialog. No worries, this will be amazing. So I was halfway through writing the Jira ticket for the development when I stopped and I thought, why? Why the hell should you rely on fake check results to test your notifications in the first place? This doesn't really make sense, does it? I mean, how is anyone supposed to find this feature without looking in the documentation? No one would say, fake check results. That's, of course, that's how I test my notifications. That's not the logical way. So unfortunately, I discarded the Jira ticket and went back to the drafting table. And this is what we came up with. A new button in the notification configuration called Test Notifications. Yay! This button opens up a dialog similar to the commands dialogs and lets you simulate events to test notifications for specific hosts and services. First, you decide if you want to test on a host or a service. If you switch to service, you can select a host and then a service from that host, like this. Now it's time for the interesting part, selecting the event to simulate. By default, it's a status change from OK to warning, but you can just as well select, for example, from warning to unknown or from critical to OK to really test out all of the events. And just imagine how tedious that would be with the fake check results. If the service is OK and you want to test from critical to OK, too tedious. Will be very easy now. And you can also define the plugin output to test if the associated conditions work as expected. And we know that sometimes you just want to theoretically play something through and you don't want to actually send the notification out to maybe not spam your colleagues or don't scare them. And to allow you to do that, we have included this little checkbox here that lets you decide whether to trigger an actual notification or not. Those are the most important options in this dialog. But we wanted to take it a step further. We wanted to really let you test the conditions of your notifications thoroughly. And we know that some notifications only get triggered under specific circumstances. So we included advanced condition simulation. Here you can select a specific date and time to simulate the event on, as well as the notification number. This allows you to test conditions such as throttling notifications and scenarios like being on call during holidays or something like that. You don't have to wait until midnight to fire up the fake check results anymore. And now it's time to confirm the dialog with the test notification button. It's time to confirm. Checkmk then provides you a short summary of the test, including how many rules are actually matching, how many notifications will be generated as a result, and whether the notification was sent or not, depending on what you have selected. You might also recognize the following table from the recent notification analysis. We utilized this one to give you a summary of the event you've just simulated. And in this example, it was the status change. And we give you the option to dig really deep with this little icon, which gives you the context. And we just have a little snapshot from that context because it's a huge table for everyone who has ever looked at it. You see all of the details that are connected to whatever you have tested it on. For example, the host tags. Following the analysis table, you will see a table with all the details of the resulting notification. You can see the exact recipient, as well as the notification that was being used. In this case, an HTML email. The table of global notification rules with an applied matching helps you to identify the responsible rules for this notification. You can see the matching icons we just talked about. This entire analysis page makes testing and troubleshooting much easier and more efficient. But now you might say to me, Tanya, I'm using Checkmk since 10 years. And I'm always using fake check results for all of those years. I will never remember that this new feature exists. I just want that checkbox in my fake check result dialog. And I understand you. We really want to make the transition as easy as possible for you. So that's why we included this little flag in the fake check results dialog to go to the test notification feature. but I did redesign the dialog, so it's complete. But that's not the only shortcut that we included. We want to make the feature as convenient as possible for you. So if you are on a service and click on the service test notification, it will directly bring you to the test notification dialog and pre-fills the host and service name for you. So you can just start right away with it. The same for the host setup. Just below the test connection button, you can now also go to test your notifications. Overall, the new feature is designed to provide you with a flexible and intuitive way to test notifications. You can simulate specific scenarios. You can check which rules have and haven't triggered the notification. As you can always decide whether you want to send out the actual notification, you can avoid spamming your colleagues. And lastly, you can access it from a variety of entry points, so it always fits into your workflow. This is the time where you can clap once again. Thank you. So what's next? We have a couple of UX projects already in the making, 3 really big ones. After spending so much time with the test notifications feature, we also realized that there is a lot of potential for notifications in general. At my talk tomorrow, I will give you a more in-depth insight into that exciting project. It has a very low expectation title, You Will Love Notifications. The second big UX project is about making setup easy. And the third big project, it's a little bit my nemesis, because there's so many forum posts and support tickets that have all boiled down to this little thing, is the show more button. I really hate it. Can't tell you how much I don't like that thing. We are working on removing this one, replacing it with a more sensible concept. So you might remember the advanced options in the schedule downtime dialog are first step into that direction. And of course, on top of that, we are also still working on those minor improvements to make working with Checkmk more enjoyable. The most important part, no matter if it's a big project or a small project, we want them to succeed. And for that, we need your feedback and your insights. So if you're interested in giving us feedback, participating in all of those surveys, interviews, and usability tests, then please sign up to the UX mailing list. You will receive all research announcements directly in your inbox and can decide if it's something that's of interest for you or not. Just scan the QR code. I've seen already some people doing it. Thank you very much. Or you can also go directly to list.checkmk.com and select the Checkmk User Experience Research mailing list. But you can also just go to our booth, the Future Fair. It's right here, back in the room. We brought some very early concepts, some spoilers for the notification talk tomorrow. And we have our posters there where you can leave your feedback or just talk to us directly. It's your chance to complain about all the usability issues. And we are looking very forward to your feedback about all of that, because in the end, it's you who make that thing great. And that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanja. Now, you can read the questions as well, so you can, what about the time date picker?
Do you remember how I told you how great it is that we're using the browser default date and time picker, because it means that we are using the browser settings when it comes to that AM, PM versus 24-hour period. The disadvantage of that is that we don't have any control right now over the time and date picker. So right now there's no dark theme, but we are working on our own date and time picker sometime, maybe in the future. hopefully.
So I'm not sure if you know the answer to the next question because test notifications are distributed setup. Yeah? Do you know it or?
I think Ronnie is the best person to answer this.
Yeah, I know that he said he might not be. Ronnie, can you answer it?
No idea what you said.
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yeah.
No, I cannot answer this. Currently, I think it's okay in distributed setups, but I have to check it. Please come to me afterwards if you are interested.
Okay. This is actually a question now for you, Lars. I mean, I know the answer as well, so we need a microphone for Lars. Because it has nothing to do actually with UX, but it has to do how do we actually, like when you move, for example, a host from a site to another site, what happens with downtimes and acknowledgements?
Yeah, so in a distributed setup, the host is monitored, for example, on one remote site, and the downtimes and acknowledgements are saved in the state file of the microcore running there. And when we are moving a host to another site, not all of the information that has been recorded on the one site is migrated to the other side. So there's one piece missing, a feature which cares for the migration of the various informations we have at the remote sites. Currently, there's no support for moving the RD files, the metrics, logwatch files, and also downtimes acknowledgements. So that would be, when we look on this as an external perspective as a user, that would be a great feature. Currently, it's not there. I guess that's somewhere already in the ideas portal. If not, then put it in and vote it up, and then maybe we can make it something for the future.
I think I saw it somewhere. It's basically, I think I saw one idea of moving also the RDs from one side to another, and the other was, I mean, as part of that, also move the other stuff. So, I mean, the business intelligence, it's a great feature, but it might be not the easiest one to configure. And so we understand it needs an improvement, but this is not a simple thing. I mean, if we change the business intelligence UX, this is probably one of the larger projects we would have to do. We haven't planned it for 2.4, and we also haven't planned it yet for after, but we also haven't made the plans for 2.5 yet, so it might make it for 2.5, but definitely not for 2.4.
There's a sticky note in the back on one of the posters also saying we want to have improved business intelligence. So if you want to really make it happen, put all of the dots on that one. Just
like it's we go where the most pain is for you as users when it comes to UX. And so if you have really a lot of pain and a lot of you have pain, then maybe this is something we can prioritize a little bit faster.
Yes.
Okay, maybe that's one for you. I don't know if it's possible, but can we select in the downtimes dialog also the time zone? Because we've seen there's a time zone, like what is your local time zone?
Yeah.
Or how does it work?
Yeah, it's currently only the server time that it displays, so it's not currently possible to select the time zone. That's something we will probably look into in the future. So what about the time zone setting?
I think it goes into the same thing. In general, we need to work on how we deal with time zones in Checkmk, because we have more and more distributed environments over the entire world where people in the US might set a downtime, same the people do it in Germany. What is actually the time they set it on? And I think this is one of the things we already have actually decided that we'll fix sooner or later.
Yeah.
So we'll consider how we throughout the entire UI of Checkmk deal with time. Because I mean, we have it in graphs, we have it all over the place, so it's not a trivial change, but it's something which we really know that we need to do it.
Yeah. So first step was to make it more transparent. What's the actual time you're doing stuff in, and then we will take a look at it holistically. If we would have done it for the acknowledge problem or schedule downtime dialog, it would have risked that we couldn't have pushed the improvement altogether. So we decided to prioritize in that way.
And Lars, I give this to you as well. maybe you know the answer if this is possible. Can we get a diff of pending changes?
I think, in fact, on the lower level, you can already get that. There's a Git feature in Checkmk. There, at least, we keep track of what has changed over time and what has not been activated yet. So on the command line, you could already execute git diff. In the UI, it is not integrated well, so it's kind of, let's say, advanced user feature. It could be an option to show it, but only as, let's say, for the whole summary of all changes. Yeah? We would not be able to display for all the individual steps you made to show a change there, because the configuration is not really helping us there, modifying various files, so it would not be too easy to make use of it. Yeah, but hopefully that already answers your question.
But that requires that we enable this Git thing in the global settings, yeah?
Could be technically maybe the simplest approach. Maybe there's another one to do that. Also, it would be interesting how that would work in the UI. Yeah. So conceptually, how could we make use of that? Probably not everyone can make sense out of what we would display there. So it's also kind of an advanced feature, right?
Yeah.
So for now, not really in the UI. Also, I think not for 2.4. I mean, at least I don't think we have it on our plan. But that's also, I mean, it comes up to basically all the ideas. There's so many things we can do in Checkmk, and every release we tackle a lot of them. And then sooner or later, we hopefully have addressed all of them. I mean, and I think last, this goes again to you, sorry, but isn't there already an option to disable notifications?
Sorry, I didn't get it. Which question?
The first question, will there be a slide in the sidebar to disable notifications for distributed sites at once? Don't we have the master control for that?
But it's for every single site.
Yeah. So kind of a bulk action to disable that for all the cores you have running. Well, would be actually only a UI edition, so definitely possible from a technical perspective. And then it's basically up to Tanya to decide whether that's a priority or not, yeah?
So you know who to ask for and who to basically go. She's there in the back throughout the breaks, so you can...
I take all of the bribes, no worries. So as we're working on the notifications, that's definitely an interesting thing to do. So yeah, it's not off the table right now. And if it's just a UI thing, then it's even less off the table, I would say. Yeah. Just have to make sure that it doesn't go into more problems then.